The air was thick with smoke and panic. Jack stumbled through the unfamiliar streets, his heart pounding. He had come to Lyrael as a technician, not a hero, but when the ground split and the crowd scattered, he saw her. An alien woman trapped beneath a fallen beam. Without thinking, he rushed forward, muscles straining as he pulled her free. The world seemed to pause. The woman's silver eyes met his. Around them, the locals stared in silence, their faces unreadable. Jack felt relief, then confusion. Why weren't they celebrating? Why did the woman's family begin to weep, not with joy but with something like fear? He tried to speak, but the words caught in his throat. The woman touched his arm, her skin cool and luminescent. She whispered a word he didn't know. The crowd parted, and an elder approached, robes whispering across the dust. Jack realized too late that saving a life on Lyrael was not a simple act. It was the start of something he could not yet understand. Lyrael was a world of contrasts, a place where the familiar and the utterly alien intertwined. It was a planet that challenged every preconceived notion, a canvas painted with the brushstrokes of the extraordinary. Two suns painted the sky in shades of lavender and gold, a breathtaking spectacle that bathed the landscape in an ethereal glow. The light danced and shifted, creating an ever-changing panorama of color. The cities grew in spirals, their buildings woven from living crystal that shimmered and pulsed with inner light. These weren't just structures. They were living organisms, extensions of the planet itself. The people moved with a quiet grace, their movements fluid and deliberate, as if they were dancing to a silent melody. Their voices soft, like the rustling of leaves, their gestures deliberate, each movement imbued with meaning and intention. Communication was an art form, a delicate dance of words and expressions. Jack had always admired their calm, their serene acceptance of the world around them, but now it felt like a wall he could not climb, an impenetrable barrier separating him from their understanding. Customs here were old, older than memory, passed down through generations in an unbroken chain of tradition. Every action had meaning, a resonance that echoed through the ages. Every word was a thread in a tapestry of tradition, a complex and intricate design that defined their way of life. The Lyralese prized harmony above all, seeking balance in all things, striving to maintain equilibrium within themselves and with the world around them. They believed that to save a life was to bind your own to theirs, to forge an unbreakable connection that transcended the boundaries of individuality. Heroism was not a fleeting act, a moment of impulsive bravery, but a lifelong promise, a solemn vow to protect and serve. Jack had read about their rituals, but only in passing, as academic curiosities. He never thought they would matter to him, that he would ever be caught in their intricate web. Now, as the rescued woman's family gathered, their faces etched with concern, he saw the fear in their eyes, a palpable sense of unease that hung heavy in the air. They were not grateful, not in the way he expected. They were wary, their eyes narrowed with suspicion, as if he had crossed a line he could not see, a boundary marked not by physical barriers, but by ancient customs and unspoken rules. The woman, whose name was Sira, stood beside him, her presence a silent enigma. She did not smile, offer a word of thanks, or even meet his gaze. Instead, she bowed her head, a gesture of respect perhaps, or something else entirely. Her silver hair falling like water, cascading down her shoulders in shimmering waves, concealing her expression. The elder spoke again, his voice trembling not just with age but with a deep-seated authority that commanded attention. Jack understood only fragments, snippets of alien words that danced just beyond his grasp, but one word echoed in his mind, resonating with an ominous weight: bonded. Long ago, the Lyralese had faced many dangers. Their civilization, though advanced, was constantly tested by the harsh realities of their world. They were a people forged in the crucible of adversity. Their world was wild, a tempestuous realm where the very elements seemed to conspire against them, with storms that could tear stone apart, leaving nothing but dust and echoes in their wake. These storms were not mere weather events, they were existential threats, and beasts that hunted in the violet night, creatures of shadow and fang forever prowling the edges of their settlements, a constant reminder of the fragility of life. Survival was a daily struggle. In those days, to save a life was rare, a beacon of hope in a sea of despair, a defiance against the overwhelming odds. And it meant more than gratitude. It was a profound act, resonating with the very core of their being. It meant trust, an unbreakable bond forged in the fires of shared experience, and a debt that could never be repaid, a lifelong commitment etched into the soul. So they made a law, a cornerstone of their society, a testament to the value they placed on life and the responsibilities that came with it. If you saved someone, you became their protector, their shield against the darkness, their unwavering guardian in a world of constant peril. If you were saved, you gave your loyalty in return, a pledge of unwavering allegiance, a devotion that transcended mere obligation. Over generations, this law grew into something deeper, a cultural tapestry woven with threads of duty, honor, and an unspoken understanding of the interconnectedness of all life. Saving a life was a sacred act, a ritual imbued with profound spiritual significance, a moment of transcendence that bound two souls together. It was the beginning of a bond stronger than family, a connection forged in the crucible of life and death, an unbreakable link that defied the very fabric of existence. It was marriage. A union not just of bodies but of souls, a merging of destinies under the watchful eyes of their ancestors. Jack listened as the elder explained, her voice raspy with age and wisdom, each word carrying the weight of generations. Her words translated by Sira's trembling voice, each syllable a hesitant offering, a bridge between two worlds. "You have saved me," she said, eyes shining with both hope and fear, a mixture of vulnerability and burgeoning trust. "Now we are joined, by law, by spirit, our fates intertwined, our destinies forever bound together." The crowd watched, a sea of expectant faces waiting for his answer, the silence thick with anticipation. He tried to protest, a surge of panic rising within him, a desperate attempt to reclaim control of the situation. He hadn't meant for this. This wasn't part of the plan. He was caught in a web of circumstances beyond his comprehension. He was just doing what any decent person would do, acting on instinct, driven by compassion and a sense of moral obligation. But the Lyralese saw things differently, their culture steeped in traditions and customs that were alien to him. To them, his choice was clear, a decisive act that spoke volumes about his character and intentions. He had chosen her, whether he knew it or not, his actions resonating with a deeper, more profound truth, an inevitable bond forged in the crucible of fate. Jack's mind raced, a whirlwind of confusion and disbelief. He replayed the events in his head, trying to grasp the gravity of the situation he'd stumbled into. How could a simple act of kindness lead to this? On Earth, saving someone was an act of kindness, a gesture of goodwill, a moment of human connection without expectation of repayment. It was simply the right thing to do. Here, on Lyrael, it was a vow, a sacred commitment etched in the very fabric of their society, a promise binding two souls together in ways he couldn't have imagined. He tried to explain the difference, the cultural chasm that separated his understanding from theirs. He was stumbling over words and gestures, desperately trying to bridge the gap of miscommunication. Each attempt seemed to dig him deeper into the hole. "I didn't know," he said, his voice laced with genuine remorse. "I truly didn't understand the implications. I just wanted to help," he pleaded, his eyes reflecting his sincere intentions. But Sira's family only grew more anxious, their faces etched with worry and suspicion. To them, his confusion was shame, a blatant disregard for their most sacred traditions. They whispered among themselves, casting furtive glances, afraid he would break the bond and bring dishonor upon their lineage. He saw the pain in Sira's eyes, a deep-seated hurt that mirrored his own confusion. She wanted to believe he meant it, that his heart was pure and his intentions were true. She wanted to trust the law, the ancient customs that had guided her people for generations, but his uncertainty wounded her, casting a shadow of doubt over their burgeoning connection. The elders frowned, their faces etched with disapproval, their faces set in lines of disappointment, their silence speaking volumes of their judgment. Jack felt the weight of 1,000 years pressing down on him, the expectations of an entire culture bearing down on his shoulders. He was trapped between worlds, a stranger in a strange land, bound by a law he didn't understand. If he refused, he would shame Sira and her family, forever tarnishing their reputation. If he accepted, he would be bound to a life he never chose, a future dictated by customs he couldn't comprehend. The city outside went on as usual, oblivious to the turmoil brewing within the small room. But inside, everything had changed, the atmosphere thick with tension and unspoken words. Jack tried to find a way out, a loophole, any possible escape from this impossible situation. He searched for loopholes in the law, poring over ancient texts and forgotten passages. He hoped for mercy in the eyes of the elders, a glimmer of understanding in their stern gazes. But Lyrael's customs were ironclad, forged in the fires of tradition and unyielding to change. There was no room for doubt, no space for misunderstanding, no escape from the consequences of his actions. The bond was sealed, his fate intertwined with Syrah's in a way he never anticipated. Days passed in a blur. Jack was given a new home, a place beside Syrah's family. They treated him with respect but also with distance. He was both honored and feared. Children peeked at him from behind doorways, whispering stories of the human who had claimed a life. Syrah tried to help him adjust. She taught him the rituals, how to greet the dawn, how to share a meal, how to honor the bond. But every gesture felt heavy, every word a reminder of what he had done. Jack missed the freedom of his old life. He missed being just another face in the crowd. He wondered if he could ever belong. The customs were strange, the rules unspoken. Even laughter felt different here. He longed to ask Syrah how she felt, but the words caught in his throat. Was she angry? Was she afraid? Or was she too trapped by a law she could not escape? At night, Jack lay awake, listening to the hum of the city. He thought of Earth, of home. But Lirael was his world now, for better or worse. Jack's heart twisted with every new day. The pressure built with every ritual, every expectation. Syrah was kind but distant. She followed the customs, never questioning, never complaining. Jack wished he could talk to her openly, but the language of feelings was foreign here. He watched the city's festivals from afar. Couples danced in the crystal plazas, their steps light, their hands entwined. Jack felt like a shadow among them, always on the outside. He wondered if Syrah felt the same. Did she dream of another life, one without him? The elders watched him closely. They expected gratitude, devotion, but Jack's heart was full of questions. Was this really what heroism meant? Was love a choice, or a debt? The customs pressed in on him, tight as a cage. He tried to find comfort in small things. A shared meal, a quiet walk, the warmth of Syrah's hand. But the bond felt fragile, stretched thin by doubt. Jack knew he had to decide, accept the law or break it. There was no middle path. The day of decision arrived. The elders called a gathering. Syrah stood beside Jack, her face pale but determined. The crowd waited, silent and expectant. Jack felt their eyes on him, heavy as stone. He took a deep breath, searching for the right words. He looked at Syrah. She met his gaze, her silver eyes steady. "You do not have to stay," she whispered. "But if you do, we share everything, joy and sorrow, hope and fear." Jack realized she was just as afraid as he was. The bond was not just law, it was a leap of faith. He thought of Earth, of home, of freedom. But he also thought of Syrah, of the life they could build together. The choice was his, to accept the bond, to become part of this world, or to walk away and leave Syrah behind. The silence stretched. Finally, Jack spoke. His voice was soft but clear. "I choose to stay. Not because of the law, but because I want to learn. I want to understand." The crowd let out a breath as if the whole city had been holding it. Syrah smiled, a real smile, bright as the twin suns. The elders nodded, satisfied. The bond was sealed, not by law, but by choice. Jack felt the weight lift from his shoulders. He was still afraid, but now he was not alone. Syrah took his hand, guiding him through the rituals. Each step felt lighter, each word more familiar. They learned together, two strangers building a home. There were still challenges. The customs did not change overnight. But Jack found joy in the little things. A shared joke, a quiet evening, the promise of a new day. He was no longer just a hero or a stranger. He was part of something larger, a story that belonged to them both. As the suns rose, Jack and Syrah stood together on the city's highest tower. The world stretched out before them, full of possibility. Jack's journey was not easy. He had stumbled into a world of rules he did not understand. He had made mistakes, hurt feelings, and questioned himself. But in the end, he learned that understanding came from listening, from patience, from trust. The people of Lirael taught him that heroism was not just a moment of bravery. It was a promise, a willingness to stand by someone even when the path was hard. Love was not a debt but a choice made every day. Jack and Syrah's story became a legend, told in the plazas and sung under the stars. It was a story of difference, of fear, and of hope. Above all, it was a story of two worlds learning to meet in the middle. As the twin suns set, Jack knew he had found a new home, not just in Lirael but in the heart of another.